We've built this company up to about 300 employees. We've raised 150 million in funding. We've got thousands of customers worldwide, tens of thousands of users, almost 100 million in revenue. So quite sizable accomplishment in the last 5 years.
This is OctoTalks, people transforming digital experiences. Kris Rudeegraap is a successful entrepreneur that has led the launch and growth of an amount of businesses, among which is Sendoso, a sending platform that helps companies stand out and drive more pipeline by powering their marketing, sales, and customer experience teams. In this episode, Kris joined us to talk about his experience working in sales for over a decade and how he went from working in companies like Talkdesk, Yapstone, and Picora to become a founder and offer a platform that solves the problems he used to have as an employee. He also explained how creativity and personalization have helped him and his teams succeed at developing solutions for getting prospects. Welcome, Kris.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on the show, Reggie.
Fantastic. So I want to jump right into understanding a little bit more how Kris sees Kris. I just read your Twitter bio before joining this call, and it says that you are passionate about technology, hacker of sales, love the outdoors, founder. So I see that you have many hats. Maybe you can tell us, Kris, who are you and how do you define yourself?
Yeah, of course. I think, I like to think of myself as an entrepreneur, a founder, someone that likes to help other founders. I'm a husband. I have an amazing wife. I love playing golf. I love the outdoors. I'm a traveler. And then I'm a dog dad as well. I think I created that Twitter bio before I got my dog. So I need to update that bio and add dog dad in there.
It's a very important title. You should definitely do that. Kris, and tell us a little bit more about Sendoso, which I think is one of your biggest accomplishments. What is it like? Tell us all about this business.
Yeah, so I started Sendoso about almost 7 years ago. So for those of you who don't know what Sendoso is, it is a sending platform that helps other companies send out corporate gifts, direct mail, swag, really anything that you want to send out to prospects, to customers, to employees. And we've built this company up to about 300 employees. We've raised 150 million in funding. We've got thousands of customers worldwide, tens of thousands of users, almost 100 million in revenue. So quite sizable accomplishment in the last 5 years. Prior to that, I spent about a decade in software sales, as you alluded to, and I learned a lot in that time frame on really what was the evolution of outbound prospecting and how do you engage with customers. And I saw that email was just a very noisy channel, and it was becoming less responsive. And so I said, hey, what are other ways that you can engage with prospects and customers? Sure. And that led me to personally sending out handwritten notes and gifts. And it worked really well. It was just very manual and time intensive and hard to track and hard to automate. And so I dreamed up of a platform called Sendoso to make it so much easier for me.
Yeah. What I find most admirable in platforms such as Sendoso is that you guys mix software and physical world, right? Because you have all the tech component, but then you have to deliver real things to people's houses or offices. I bet it's very challenging, right, Kris?
It is, and it's quite a unique learning curve. When we first got started like 6 years ago, our first warehouse was probably the size of a bedroom. And we're like, great, it's empty. Now we got to fill it up with stuff. And then like within months, it was completely packed. And then we moved it to another warehouse that was probably 3 times that size. And then we moved to another one that was about 10 times that size. Now it's probably 1,000 times that size. It's a couple 100,000 square feet and just a massive warehouse that we have in Phoenix, Arizona in the United States. And then we have warehouses in Europe and Canada and other places over in Australia. And so it's quite fascinating to see the growth of the physical components. And going to see these warehouses, it's quite unique just to see how we built software and then how we build these logistics and fulfillment centers.
Yeah, wow, it's really impressive. Well, Chris, our main purpose as a company here in Octobot is to transform people's lives through technology. And we would love to hear from you. How do you think Sendoso is transforming people's lives? Maybe you have like a couple of stories of clients and people that got, this experience from Sendoso and really had like the best day or something like that.
Yeah, so I think the power of Sendoso is really the power of making people smile. When you send someone a gift, it makes them happy, and I think we've seen, millions of these interactions occur in the last 5 years, from people sending, birthday gifts or congratulatory gifts for job changes, and it's really powerful, the psychology on both sides, when you send someone a gift and the feeling they feel, and then when you're the sender of that gift and you maybe get a picture back when they experience that. So I think there's a lot that goes into the creativity of these gifts, and I think that's also very powerful to spend some of your time thinking about, what does this person want, or to get recommendations through our software, what could this person want, and then picking that perfect gift, writing that perfect note or handwritten note with it. That can go really far. We've seen all types of creative things. One of my favorite first stories, it was just a creativity. I had met this gentleman at a conference. He was on crutches. He had recently broken his ribs in a skiing accident. And so I had kind of a funny pun related handwritten note and send him a rack of ribs so he could eat these ribs as a funny thing, like, hey, here's some extra ribs for you. And he got that when he got back to his home. And I thought, just things like that are kind of like, lighthearted, funny, and ways that you can be a bit more, unique and personal in this business world that sometimes gets too professional and too common. You're just, used to very professional. Hey, I've got to, I can't say something funny. I can't be weird and quirky, but I think people are people, and people like to buy from people, and people like to, work with other people. And, once you can kind of bridge that gap and make a prospect or a customer more like a friend, I think that goes a long way, and that relationship builds stronger.
Yeah, I guess that, even though technology advances so much and things are becoming more and more digital, this human touch is still so important, and people value it much more, I guess. So yeah, it was like a genius idea. It's very nice. Well, your whole business journey, Kris, is super interesting. I would love to know a little bit more about your thoughts on entrepreneurship. What do you like the most about being an entrepreneur? And as I know that you are never just thinking about one business and you are always with new projects and doing more things at the same time, I also want to ask you, better said, if you consider yourself a serial entrepreneur of some kind or something like that. What do you say?
Yeah. So to answer the later question first, so yes, I definitely think, I'm a serial entrepreneur in the sense of the fact that I just love starting companies. I think going back to even to childhood, I was like the kid on the side of the street selling lemonade, or, I lived a few blocks from a Christmas tree farm and I would sell mistletoe in December, or I'd be the one walking around the neighborhood asking if they needed their lawns mowed. So I was always kind of a hustler entrepreneur as a kid. I started a company in college where the university, I was able to raise, a modest amount, about $25,000, but it was at the time amazing and something that allowed me to start a company, learn from that, and end up selling that company. And along the way, the last kind of 10 years have been a part of very early stage companies. I was employee number 3 at a company. I was employee number 10 at a company. And so I really saw these companies grow from a small little team to massive, multi-billion dollar startups. And so I think that, it's fun. I like it. And so some of the things that I enjoy most about entrepreneurship is just the solving problems. I think, what is that pain that you're so passionate about solving that you're going to go spend the next, 5 to 10 years of your life trying to solve? I think there's also a lot of the unknown. Like each day is different. You wake up the next day and you're like, there's going to be a new challenge. There's going to be a new leaky bucket. There's going to be a new thing to celebrate. And each day is different. And I enjoy that. And, at the end of the day, I love making customers happy. I think it's really fun to see, your very first customer to your, 1,000th customer, and seeing them have success, seeing them, helping them in their careers. I saw a story a couple weeks ago from one of our customer success managers that was doing an executive business review, and the client was like, hey, this campaign that I used Sendoso for worked so well that it helped me get a promotion. And I was like, wow, that is like, hearing that, kind of gave me goosebumps. I'm like, wow, that's amazing that you're able to use our platform so well that you got a promotion. And then I think on the other side of that is just the people behind it. I've helped hundreds and hundreds of people, live their lives, and employees that, can honestly say that they're working their dream job. And so coming to work every day and talking with my colleagues and knowing that they love what they do is something that I love about entrepreneurship and creating jobs.
Wow, that's so nice, Kris. I love these stories when you can see the real impact, right?
Yeah.
And I guess that nowadays, besides all the things you do directly in your companies, you also help a lot of other entrepreneurs, right? Like in being an investor, a mentor, things like that as well.
Yeah, so I've invested in a dozen companies. I'm helping founders in dozens of companies. I like to spend a good portion of my week getting into the weeds, helping founders build their product, helping founders, get their first customers. I think I've been there. I've had mentors and advisors when I was in a similar situation as a smaller company, and I like to kind of pay it forward and return the favor. So I find it very interesting to, learn from my successes, learn from my failures, and then help transfer those learnings with other entrepreneurs.
Wow. And Kris, I'm curious, is there like a very, dream company that you imagine yourself founding and then working there the whole life? Or do you think you are always going to be like this guy that has ideas and found them, or help others found them, and then you move on to the next, big thing? How do you like see yourself?
Yeah, I think a combination of both. I think right now I am definitely living my dream, but I think for a lot of companies, there's a lifespan of, you start the company, maybe there's some funding, and then investors have a time frame where, is it 10 years they want to see a return on their investment, and oftentimes that leads to an IPO or an M&A exit. And so I think that is the dream, and a lot of times after an M&A or a decade of running a company, maybe there's leadership changes, or maybe there's a time to move on after a company is sold, and then it's back to square zero and starting something new. So I think there is something to be said around learning across the entire journey from, being a small startup with, a handful of people and figuring out how to build the product, how to launch the product, to the other side, which is how do you have hundreds or thousands of employees or tens of thousands of employees? How do you have, millions or billions of dollars in revenue? And, those are just unique challenges on both sides.
Yeah. Talking a little bit more about challenges, Kris, what do you think are or have been the biggest challenges that you have to overcome? And, how was your process for finding solutions to those challenges?
Whew, that is like probably I could go on for hours here, but I think, there's challenges, I think, with balancing priorities at all stages of the company, especially in the beginning stages, when you are kind of in charge of everything. As a founder, you're doing sales, you're doing marketing, you're doing finance, you're doing HR, you're doing product. So one of the things I got really good at is really documenting all of the ideas, all the things I could be doing, whether that's through like a Notion or Asana or a project management tool. And then, being able to be good at disconnecting. As a founder, you could work 24 hours a day if you really wanted. There's that much work that can be done. Yeah. But I think it's also important to balance those life priorities, making sure you have time to walk your dog or to have dinner with your wife. And so, I think balancing those priorities, putting, a stop at the end of your day and saying, hey, I know I have this long list of things to do. I'm not going to forget it because I've wrote it all down, but I can get back to it tomorrow. So I think that's, a very important balancing priorities, and then creating a system to balance those priorities. Aside from that, I went from a sales background to a CEO, so that was a big challenge for me. I think that was overcoming some adversity there, where a lot of founders tend to be product or engineering led founders, but I was able to do that as a sales led founder, and I think that was really helpful for me getting early customers. So I think that was a challenge. Yeah. And then just scaling the company, starting it, getting product market fit, then saying, okay, we think we have some customers that use it, they're paying. Now, how do we get go-to-market fit? Can we build a repeatable, scalable sales and marketing and customer success engine that can continuously add customers? So I think there's a lot of people that talk about product market fit. There's not as much talking about go-to-market fit, which is really how do you get your first $1 million in revenue, your first $10 million in revenue. And I think that can be even harder. And then thereafter, how do you keep hiring the right team and the challenges with hiring and then scaling?
Yeah, totally. Finding the right people sounds like a big challenge for me, Kris. At least over here, I see a lot the example of Octobot's founders and how over the years they had to learn how to, delegate more and start focusing on what matters and in finding right people that could do things and lead things that they couldn't anymore. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, how have you found the right partners or the right people to complement you?
Yeah, I think being a good delegator is one of the key strengths of a founder and a CEO, mainly because there's so many things to do, and if you try to do them all, you're gonna do none of them really well.
Yeah.
I think you've got to pick areas that you love and passionate and are good with, and you can focus more of your time there. But in all honesty, you can't be good at everything, and so you need to delegate. And you need to delegate well. You can't delegate and then come back and be that micromanager. So, my goal with kind of being a leader in team management is really thinking through how do you empower people? How do you encourage people to do their best work? How do you celebrate their successes? How do you provide constructive feedback in one-on-ones, but don't diminish the value that they're bringing to the company? And,
Yeah.
I often say for a lot of the people that I work with at Sendoso that I work for you. I want to go work for, you're the CEO of marketing. You're the CEO of product. You can go and, do what you need to do and let me help you unblock things. Let me help you find resources. Let me help you, be your best self. And I think that's important to get out of the way of these smarter people who you've hired to do their work.
Totally. Wow, that's a great thought. Well, I also wanted to ask you more about team management and leadership in general, Kris. What have been your lessons over there, besides this one you already shared? And do you have inspiring leaders or leadership styles that you aspire to be or that you have, faced during your experience?
Yeah, I think I tend to be lead by positivity and lead by positive encouragement. I think there's other folks that can lead by fear, and that is kind of in some cases that works. People, but I think I personally like to lead with a smile and provide constructive feedback, even if somebody did something wrong. But it tends to create a better culture of people wanting to solve it and work harder to fix those problems than being upset and demoralized. So I think that's important. Outside of that, I think you've got to constantly be learning, joining, leadership groups, learning from your peers, reading books, listening to podcasts about how to be a better leader. And then, I think you've got to lead by example. I think one of the things I love to do is I love to get in the trenches with employees and go help solve the problems that they're trying to solve. I love to hop on a call with a customer and show them that, I can do that. I can help inspire what they can be doing. Or I love to show them that I'm there helping them and I'm not just, sitting back in a big office in a big chair, just being like, I'm too cool for this. So I think it really shows well when, the leaders of the company are on the floor talking with customers, talking with employees, and really being a part of the team.
Yeah. Does that ever happen that you join your team members in a call or in a meeting or something and they feel a little bit intimidated, like, oh my God, the CEO is here? Or in general, they are so close, to each other that it doesn't
Yeah, I think for some new employees that maybe don't know my style, which is I love getting in the weeds, I love getting involved. They're like, oh, why is the CEO on this call, or why did the CEO slack me? But for people that know me, and as people get to know me as they have been with the company for years, it becomes something they love to do because they can go and slack me at any time and say, hey, I got this idea, or hey, what do you think of this? And I'm quick to respond and quick to follow up. And so I think it does create a little bit of getting used to, given that some other companies and some other CEOs maybe are way more far removed.
Yeah.
But once you get used to it, I think people love it.
Yeah, that's true. Well, it happens here. Sometimes people tell me, "Oh, but you talk with Gisha all day, and Gisha is the CEO." And I say, "Well, Gisha is super fun. You can just write to him, and he's going to be, really cool about it." And so when people like transpass this barrier, I guess that they find a human being on the other side that just wants things to go well. So yeah, I think it's a very good leadership style, I have to say.
Exactly.
Kris, you mentioned before when we were talking about challenges that, well, you come from a sales background, and you said it was like a bit of an adjustment for you, right, to move from sales to being a CEO. Tell us a little bit more about that. How do you think your sales background, what are the pros that it brings, and also the things that are more difficult, or yeah, maybe the trouble that you may have had shifting from one role to another.
Yeah, so I think my role in sales helped me in a couple different ways. One is it helped me go and immediately talk to customers and go and immediately talk to somebody that might be like, nah, this is not good for us, and not be, my feelings weren't hurt. In sales, you get lots of no's and you just have to bounce back. And I think that's important in the early days, because you're going to get people that are naysayers that are like, this is dumb, or I don't get it, or I'm not going to respond to your email. And, if you've been in product your whole life, you're not used to that kind of no type of replies. And so I think that was something that really helped, is just going out there, talking to customers very early, getting to know our customers, getting into the weeds with sales. The second thing is hiring. Hiring and recruiting is kind of like sales, but you're not selling a product. You're selling your company, and you're not selling, to a customer. You're selling to a candidate. And so ultimately, especially in the early days, you are having to convince people to leave a good job to go, jump into a company that's unknown and convince them on the potential. And that's kind of salesy. And then the other thing was really raising venture capital money, which is, again, you're going out there, you're pitching, 10, 20, 30 VCs or investors and saying, here's my idea, you should invest. And you're getting lots of no's, and then you're going to get, a couple yeses. Mm-hmm. And that process and the pitching, the demo, the follow-up, all that is very salesy too. So I think those things make it very positive to be a sales background going into being a founder CEO. I think some of the hard parts were just other areas that I wasn't super strong on. Like, product and engineering are so important in the early years that, you learn a lot as a product manager, and spending decades of what to do, customer interviews, how to build product, how to prioritize features, how to build a roadmap, how to engage with engineers. And that was a bit more nuanced for me, but something that I was very passionate about learning and getting to, figure out as I went.
Nice. Well, as we are talking a little bit about your past and background, I also wanted to ask you, if you could go back in time, Kris, and do something differently, would you do that? Or at least, is there something you would like to have said to Kris from a few years back?
Honestly, probably not. I think I love where I'm at. What I'm doing is exactly where I want to be. I don't know, maybe I'd buy some Bitcoin when it was like $10 or something. But besides that, I think I'd do exactly what I am doing. And I was doing what I thought I should do 10, 20 years ago, which is take chances, take opportunities, learn from mistakes, and take risks. I think when you're in your 20s, it's the easiest time to make risks and try things, and even in your 30s, and take the chance.
Yeah, I love that, Kris. And I feel like this episode is going to be super inspiring for other people out there that want to build a product, that want to build a company. So if you had like to add a few more tips to those potential founders out there, what would you tell them? What is your, gold advice to entrepreneurs?
Yeah, if you're listening right now and you're like, should I do it? What am I thinking? Yes, do it today. And it doesn't have to mean you have to quit your job. You can start on the side, do a side project, get out of your comfort zone, start learning about some things. Go out there and network, maybe find another founder, and having a co-founder can be very helpful. So go to these networking meetups and go meet somebody. And so I think that's super important. If you've already started something and you're, a month in, you've already started to build it, go talk to a customer today. It's never too soon to go and you're like, what am I going to talk to them about? I don't have a product yet. Who cares? Go ask them about their problems. Go ask them about their pain points. Go show them a sketch or a Figma design and say, hey, this is what we're thinking about. So my goal or my suggestion is just to take action today, whether your end goal is to start a company or you've already started it or you're 5 years in and you're contemplating something. It's like today's the day to make action.
Fantastic. I love the message. Kris, one of the topics that has like appeared during these conversations we are having with OctoTalks is this huge transformation moment that we are living with AI and all of these new technologies. I guess that there are like a few opportunities there for sure. And also there's a lot of fear of where are we heading to, right? I would love to hear your thoughts on this topic. Do you have like an opinion about this moment we are living? Is there something you are already trying with AI that you find like, interesting?
Yeah, I think AI is going to be transformational for the next couple decades. I think there's going to be a lot of disruption to old industries. I think there's going to be a lot of really cool new technology. And I think it's going to really complement a lot of kind of existing products or existing human-led processes where AI can make things easier, can make a person feel like a superpower and a superhuman by doing twice as much work. I think in some industries it might replace some people, but for the most part, I think it's going to complement and make people that much more effective and successful. It'll be interesting to see. There's lots of companies starting that just like call themselves AI or, launch a product with a .ai domain. And I think some people are kind of jumping on the bandwagon and maybe don't really understand the whole product offering and what AI can bring. And there's a lot of entrepreneurs that are in the weeds really, thoughtfully saying, hey, this actually could be solved with AI. So I think we'll see a lot of winners and we'll see a bunch of losers coming out of this in the next decade. But it's a great time to be alive. It's a great time to start a company. And AI is one of the most interesting kind of revolutionary changes that we've seen in the past 20, 30 years.
Yeah. Well, and talking about future and changes, what can you tell us about your future, Kris? Do you have like plans for new initiatives, businesses? Are you working on something new? Is there something you can tell us?
Yeah, I'm always working on new things. I'm always trying to help other founders. I'm always looking at, what's the latest and greatest technology to invest in. So, I'll always be on the lookout for new things. I'm constantly trying to help and, always looking at what's the next best thing to invest in.
I love that. Well, so we are going to be sharing some of Kris' social media in this episode's description. So if you want to follow him and see what he's up to, you'll be able to do that. And I'd love to thank you, Kris, for your time. It was a very nice conversation. Thank you so much for joining us.
You bet. Thanks, Angie.
And thank you to everyone that joined us today to listen to Kris and get to know a little bit more about his experience as an entrepreneur. Stay tuned. We are going to be publishing a new episode very soon. So we'll see you in a few weeks. Thank you. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned to the next episode.